Arthur Sterling didn't become a billionaire by ignoring the small numbers. He tracked everything, every cent, every asset, every drop of fuel in his fleet of luxury cars. So when the weekly audit report landed on his mahogany desk, one number jumped out in red. Fuel consumption, plus 15%. Arthur frowned. He pulled up the specific logs. His Rolls Royce Phantom, the car he only used for board meetings. It was burning gas while parked. Someone was siphoning fuel. Arthur's jaw tightened. He hated thieves. He hated liars. But what he hated most was betrayal, because the only person with access to that garage was Thomas, his driver of 6 years. Thomas, who opened his doors. Thomas, who never spoke unless spoken to. Thomas, who Arthur thought was the only honest man on his payroll. Arthur spun his laptop around and pulled up the garage security feed from last night. Duapagi. Grainy black and white footage. There he was. Thomas, creeping toward the Phantom with a plastic jerry can and a siphon hose. He worked quickly, nervous, checking over his shoulder. He filled the can, wiped the rim of the tank, and slipped out the side door. Arthur watched the screen, his blood running cold. "You fool," Arthur whispered. He didn't call the police. Not yet. He wanted to look Thomas in the eye when he fired him. He wanted to know exactly where that gas was going. Was he selling it? Filling up his own car? Grabbed his coat. He wasn't going to wait for the morning shift. He was going to catch him tonight. We see what Thomas was really doing with that gas. Hit that subscribe button. If you've ever had to make a desperate choice to protect your family, tell me in the comments. Because this story proves that sometimes a crime is actually a cry for help. Arthur tracked the GPS on Thomas's personal vehicle. It was moving away from the city, away from the high-rises and the penthouses, into the shadows of the East End. An area Arthur's development company had marked for demolition next year. Arthur drove his Porsche in silence. He rehearsed what he would say. "You're fired. I'm pressing charges. How could you steal from me?" He pulled up to a street lined with condemned houses. Most were boarded up, dark, abandoned. But at the end of the block, Thomas's old sedan was parked in front of a small, crumbling house. Arthur parked a block away and walked. The wind was biting cold. He saw Thomas in the side yard. He wasn't selling the gas to a neighbor. He wasn't putting it in his car. He was pouring it into a rusted, noisy generator that sat on the frozen mud. The machine sputtered, choked, then roared to life. Arthur stepped out of the shadows. "So this is where my money goes." Thomas spun around. The jerrycan dropped from his hand. "Mr. Sterling!" Thomas looked terrified. His hands were shaking, covered in grease and fuel. "Sir, I can explain." "Explain what?" Arthur snapped, stepping closer. "That you're a thief? That you think because I have plenty, you're entitled to take what isn't yours?" Arthur kicked the empty jerrycan. "I pay you a salary, Thomas. Is it not enough? Or is greed just in your nature?" "It's not greed, sir." Thomas's voice cracked. "Please, I'll pay you back. Every cent." "You won't have the chance." Arthur pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police. You're done." Thomas dropped to his knees in the mud. A grown man, begging. "Sir, please, not tonight. Call them tomorrow. Just let the generator run tonight." Arthur paused. The desperation in Thomas's voice wasn't guilt. It was panic. Arthur looked at the generator. A thick orange extension cord ran from the machine, through a cracked window, into the house. "What is that powering?" Arthur asked. "Nothing, sir. Just lights. Please." Thomas was lying. Arthur walked past him toward the window. "Sir, don't!" Thomas scrambled up, but Arthur was faster. Arthur looked through the dirty glass. He expected to see a TV, a stereo, something frivolous. He didn't see any of that. The room was bare. No furniture, just a mattress on the floor. And on the mattress lay a little girl, maybe 7 years old. She was pale, too still. And surrounding her was a machine, a nebulizer, and a small electric heater. Both were humming, powered by the orange cord. The lights flickered on the machine as the generator outside pulsed. Arthur stared, except for the lights on that medical equipment. They cut the power 3 days ago, Thomas whispered from behind him. Arthur turned slowly. Thomas had his head down, tears dripping onto his work boots. My daughter, Lily. She has cystic fibrosis, her lungs. Thomas took a shaky breath. The cold makes it worse, her chest tightens up. She needs the nebulizer every 4 hours or she suffocates. He gestured helplessly to the generator. I couldn't pay the electric bill, they shut it off. I bought the generator with my last paycheck, but I didn't have money for gas. He looked at Arthur, shame burning in his eyes. I tried to ask for an advance, sir, but your assistant said you were in meetings all week. I didn't know what to do. She started wheezing tonight, turning blue. Thomas pointed to the sputtering machine. That gas, it's keeping her breathing, sir. Arthur looked back through the window. He watched the little girl's chest rise and fall. Inhale, exhale, mechanically assisted. Dependent entirely on the fuel in that rusty tank. 15 gallons. Arthur spent more than that on a bottle of wine at lunch. He spent more than that on the polish for his shoes. He had driven here to arrest a man for stealing something that cost less than a sandwich in Arthur's world. But to Thomas, that gas wasn't fuel. It was life. Arthur felt the cold wind hit his face, but it was the shame that froze him. He looked at his driver. Thomas stood there, waiting to be handcuffed, waiting to lose everything. Arthur looked at his own hands, smooth, clean, and Thomas's hands, rough, stained, trembling. Turn it off, Arthur said. Thomas flinched. Sir, please, turn off the generator, Thomas. Thomas started to sob. She'll die, please, Mr. Sterling, she'll die. She won't die, Arthur's voice broke. Because we're moving her. Thomas looked up, confused. What? Pack her things, Arthur commanded, wiping his own eyes. Pack the machine, get her in the car. Which car? The Porsche, Arthur said. It has heated seats. Sir, where are we going? Arthur looked at the rundown house. The darkness, the cold. To a hospital, the best one, and then to a hotel. He put a hand on Thomas's shoulder. You're not stealing gas tonight, Thomas. You're riding with me. 1 hour later, Lily was in a private room at St. Luke's. Doctors were attending to her. The room was warm. Thomas sat in the waiting chair holding a cup of coffee Arthur had bought him. He looked at Arthur, who was standing by the door on the phone with the power company. I don't care what the policy is, Arthur was saying, his voice deadly calm. Turn the power back on at that address tonight, or I buy your company and fire you myself. He hung up. He walked over to Thomas. The bill is paid, Arthur said quietly. For the year. Thomas stood up. He tried to speak, but no words came. He just grabbed Arthur's hand and held it. Why? Thomas whispered. I stole from you. Arthur looked at the sleeping girl. You didn't steal, Arthur said. You survived. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the garage key card. He pressed it into Thomas's palm. Take the day off tomorrow, Thomas. Take the week off. Stay with her. Thank you, sir, Thomas wept. Arthur turned to leave. He walked out to his Porsche. He sat in the driver's seat. He looked at the gas gauge, full. He had never noticed it before. It was just a needle, just a number. But tonight, as he drove home to his empty mansion, Arthur Sterling cried, because he finally realized that the most expensive thing in his life wasn't his car or his house. It was the breath in a little girl's lungs, and he had almost extinguished it for $15.